welcome everybody. My name is Ed Lance, and on behalf of Uprising Together, Toddy Blackstone and team, I'd like to welcome you all to today's call. We usually do in-person meetings here in LA, as many of you know. However, since the fires this month, we decided to meet virtually. And we'll be resuming our in-person meetings next week and going hybrid. So we'll also be doing a Zoom concurrent with the live events. I wanted to let you know briefly that we just launched a new website. I'll share that with you. Our website URL is uprisingtogether.love. That's uprisingtogether.love. And let me find it here. And take a look at it. Let us know what you think. We're still tweaking it, and we would be glad to have your feedback. I'll just share here. There we go, uprisingtogether.love. And we already have our next month's event posted here. We've changed how we're doing ticketing, by the way. If some of you had struggles with that, humble apologies. It got a little chaotic here. Several of us were fighting off a cold, and we had the fires, and it's just crazy. Anyway, Winnie Wang will be our next speaker next month, and should be very interesting. She's a calligrapher and is going to show us the transformative power of calligraphy. I thought what I would do just briefly is we have a lot of organizers from Uprising Together on the call. If you guys want to just turn on your cameras and give us a wave. Toddy, Kurt, Larissa, Lawrence, Lori, let's see, who else is on here? Oh yeah, there's Josie and Lauren and John Schindler. Hey guys, we do this once a month, and we have amazing speakers every month. So,
you stopped my video.
They're doing a good job for us here. When you have a disaster.
Okay. And guys, if you wouldn't mind just muting, and we're going to get started. I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Shariff Abdullah. He's a consultant and author, advocate for mindfulness, inclusivity, and societal transformation. Dr. Abdullah is also the author of Power of One, Authentic Leadership in Turbulent Times, very apropos. And he's has an award-winning book called Creating a World That Works for All. Shariff's also founder and director of Common Way Institute, located in Portland, Oregon. And we will be sharing Shariff's links and all. But hey, Shariff, why don't you come on the call and take it away. Thanks again for everyone for joining. You can please mute and turn off your videos for now. We don't. We're going to have a Q&A, by the way, after a couple hours at 4 o'clock. So stay on. Be sure to stay on for that. And so take it away, Shariff.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this gathering. So it'd be really helpful if you could mute yourself. There will be at least one Q&A session, and maybe a couple as I change into different areas. You may have a question about that area that I'm talking about, and so we will explore that. We're going to be 2 hours here, plus if there are significant questions, if there are significant activities that we want to go into, we're going to be longer than that. We'll be here as long as there's still significant interest to cover here. We'll take breaks. I'm going to do this twice. I'm not being paid to be here. I'm doing this because this is what I'm supposed to do. This is the holding of a vision that I've been holding for many decades now. It's really nice to be able to pay my bills as they fall due. I like that idea. It's really nice to be able to keep the Zoom connections going, to once in a while put some gas in the car, etc. You keep this going. I don't, Commonweigh does not have continuing funding from any foundation or anything like that. I'm not getting a six-figure income from being the CEO of the multi-million-dollar enterprise. This is a very grassroots effort, and it's a very grassroots direction. And so I appreciate it. I mean, I really do appreciate whatever donations that you can make. And there are no donations too large or too small, because a lot of small donations add up to something that I can do something with. So thank you. I usually practice something called screenless Sundays. Sunday morning, I turn off every device that has a screen. Computers go off, tablets go off, phone goes off, watch goes off, anything that can display a screen. And the reason I do that is because I think it's really important for us to unplug from our over-fixation with our technology. We have a technology that robs us of our humanity and does it in such small increments we can't feel it until it's too late. And so our challenge is for us to get back to that. And the reason I'm telling you about this, so this is a break from my usual Sunday. But the reason I'm telling you about that is that I'm inviting you to practice this also. And turning it off doesn't mean turning the screen off. It means shutting the entire device down, turning it off. It doesn't get signals anymore. The number of times that people actually do that is really, really low. And so we need to move that concept up on our list of activities. I'll be asking us to do lots and lots of things that will get us closer to our humanity, closer to the living fabric of our earth, and away from all of the stuff that keeps us from being able to do that. There's going to be some discounts on Commonweig's books, and in terms of Commonweig's books, you may want to take a look at our bookstore. And what I'm looking for right now is where I've lost my cursor. Oh my God. I guess I was talking so much about screenless Sundays, my computer says I'll fix him. And it'll come back at some other point in time. But yeah, there'll be discounts for Commonweig's books. And for 72 hours from now, or 3 days, for the next 3 days, all the books that you buy will receive free shipping. Now, free shipping means when you go on the Commonweigh website and you buy the books there, you're going to be charged shipping. That will be reimbursed to you. So it'll be charged to your card, but you'll get that back. In addition, the first 20 orders are going to receive the Commonweigh World for All Earth button, which is right here. I'm trying to get it without a glare on it. I wear this every single day, and it's my reminder to keep my mind out of the problem and into the solution. It's my reminder to keep myself focused on what's important and to focus away from the things that are designed to distract us from the most important work that we can do, which is the founding of a new civilization, a civilization with values that are rooted in the respect for all living beings. So let's go through a very, very rough agenda. When I mean rough, as I'm feeling the energy and as we are going through this work, we may change the order, we may take some things out, I may put some new things in. This is going to be very dynamic. I don't have a set, speech. I don't have a, 27 minutes and this is the applause point. No, this is really dynamic, and it's based on where we are right now and today. So first part of the agenda is fire a problem?
Yeah.
And once again, I'm going to invite people who are coming into the call to mute yourselves so that you can not jump around on the video doesn't jump around. And also I will suggest that you also stop your video, and that way things don't jump around also. So number one is fire the problem. And for the folks down in that are calling in from Los Angeles, you probably would say yes to that. But there may be another way of looking at that. And by that, I mean, how do we perceive our reality differently so that we actually can solve our problems instead of contributing to the problems? What is the problem? And we're going to talk a bit about that. And once we identify the problem, what's the solution? We are looking at three different types of consciousness, and we're looking at shifting and changing what we mean by consciousness. And there's some amazing stuff going on with regard to that right now, and we get to take a chance to look at that. What is our vision? Many of us have no idea what our vision is. Many of us talk about a vision here, but we actually practice something different over here. So we get to start nailing down what is a vision. I've been talking for the last 4 decades about the metamorphosis of humanity, of us going from the caterpillar to the butterfly. But this is now becoming much more concrete. And now we're looking at how do we actually navigate these new waters that we're swimming in. We'll talk about the 5 latent powers, and I would imagine for most of you, you'll say, "What's that?" And I'll talk about what's that. We're going to talk about the telepathy tapes. If you don't know what that is, you'll find out what that is. And then finally, we're going to talk about our vision. But our vision is not for tomorrow. Our vision is not for 10 years from now. Our vision has to be for today, right now, where we sit. We are focused and focusing on a whole new way of looking at our world and a whole new way of looking at our reality. A whole new way of looking at each other, and hopefully with more kindness than we've been. So the first thing that we're going to do is something that some of us have been doing for a number of months now, And this is something that we call the holonic catalyst meditation. And what I mean by that is many of you are meditators. You know how to meditate. Many of you have a meditation practice that you follow. Many of you may follow one of the meditation practices that that are familiar, that are relatively famous, transcendental meditation and other forms. But this is something different. First of all, most meditation forms focus on you, focuses on you, your being, your consciousness, stilling your breathing, looking into your heart, etc. The holonic catalyst meditation is not looking at you, it's looking at us. And we're going to talk about what us means in a minute when we get into this meditation. And I call it a catalyst meditation because it's designed to start something. It's designed to open the doors for something. And once we start that process of door opening, I think we'll be able to see ourselves and see each other in a really different way. Let's begin. I hope that you are comfortable, for those of you who don't have a meditation practice and don't know anything about meditation, if you can just open yourself, open your heart, listen, and let my words, let these words wash over you. See how you feel when you hear this. It's it's kind of interesting in that as you are connecting, as you are listening, things will be changing for you. Let that happen. This is going to go for maybe 6 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. Just relax into it. And I think that's enough preamble. So if you are comfortable, let's sit up straight. If you're lying down, lie down straight. Take a few deep breaths. And again, relax into this. We act for ourselves personally. Right now, you're doing this for yourself. And we act as aspects of our earth, are aspects of the being of Gaia. Holonic consciousness, the consciousness of all, is a fundamental aspect of the universe. Every atom of the universe has consciousness. It's always with us. We're acknowledging that right now because many humans have forgotten. So we're remembering our connections. We act to reawaken our connection to Gaia for the benefit of all living beings. And we acknowledge our connection to all beings. We're acknowledging our connection to all humans, including those who have gone before, those are our ancestors, and those who are to come, those are our descendants. We're acknowledging our connection to all beings who thrive on and in the air. We're acknowledging our connection to all beings who thrive on and in the water. All beings who thrive on and in the earth. All beings who thrive on and in our bodies, the 8 trillion beings that constitute your body. We acknowledge our connection to all beings of the green realms, all other beings, realms, systems, and forms of consciousness, and that includes the earth as a living being, air as a living being, fire as a living being, water as a living being. We acknowledge our connection to all colony beings. That's beings that are collections of solo beings. And that includes murmurations, colonies, schools, hives, pods, flocks, herds, migrations, swarms, and other forms of colony beings. And we acknowledge our connection to any and all other forms of consciousness known and unknown to us. Once we have acknowledged these beings, we blend all of our energies. No being is on top and no being is on the bottom. May all who are part of Gaia be connected to and in perfect health, harmony, and balance with each other and with Gaia for the common good. We are in perfect physical health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect emotional health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect mental health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spiritual health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect holonic health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spatial and temporal health, harmony, and balance. We are in the perfect place at the perfect time, in the perfect conditions, and with the perfect beings. And at this point in time, we meditate within the mind of Gaia. We meditate within the holonic energy. When you are in this state, you can hear messages that come from our mother. When we're in this state, we can let go of all of our ego needs, and we can let go of all of the transitory issues that are going on. When we are in this state, we can ask things of Gaia and we can be heard. When we're in this state, we can deepen and we can expand our human experience and expand that experience beyond our humanity into the realms of all other living beings on our planet. And if we just take a breath with that, and we close our catalyst meditation with an inclusivity mantra, and I'll be saying this to you now, and at the end of our talk, we'll be saying this together. May I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. And may all beings be well. May all beings be secure. And may all beings be happy. And that is our catalyst meditation. since August, there's a very small group of us who have been doing this daily. It is setting seeds for us. It's setting seeds for our humanity. It's setting seeds for us moving forward into a whole new reality. So we are, I'm going to do something here. What I see and what you see are two different things. You're seeing my screen, and I'm seeing my screen and another dozen windows of things that are going on that I pull in and I pull out, and I'm consulting with, etc. And it makes things interesting. And so, but without further ado, because I almost always feel like I'm running behind in time. This is because I'm giving you snippets of information, some of which as part of webinars that will last 2 or 3 hours, and you get 5 minutes of that, or 10 minutes of that. So let me dive us right back into it right now. And let's ask the question, is fire the problem? I think that anyone who has lost their homes, anyone who has lost their livelihood, anyone who may have had family members or friends who lost their lives in the fires that have happened in the Los Angeles County area would say, yes, fire's a problem. I'm going to invite you to look at this differently, because once you start looking at it differently, you can start seeing that this this issue may have a completely different solution for you. Some of you know the work of Carl Anthony. He's relatively well-known in California circles, architect and ecologist, a Black architect, a Black ecologist. And Carl says something when he does his talks. He says, an earthquake is not a disaster. An earthquake is a naturally occurring event. The disaster is putting your house on the fault line. And we can paraphrase that. Fire is a naturally occurring event, especially in some areas of the country and some areas of the world. The disaster is building a house of wood in a fire-prone area. But we do that. We do things like that because we think about the world a particular way. The way we think about the world is based on how we have been trained to see the world. And what we are doing right now is learning how to train ourselves to look at the world a different way, to perceive a different reality. What is the problem? The problem is not what you think it is. Our problem is far larger than climate change, far larger than racism, far larger than COVID, far larger than politics, and far larger than anything else like that. When I went to Clark University in Massachusetts, and I got Clark is a college that specializes in psychology, and that meant when I was going to school, that meant studying a lot of rats, lots and lots of rats. So we did this experiment You take two rats and you put them in a cage. You make the cage big enough, and you put enough food and enough water in the cage, and the rats will cohabit. You make the rats of different sexes, and the rats will cohabit a lot. But if you make the cage metal, and you send a mild electric shock through the floor of the cage, the rats will experience pain. And as soon as they experience pain, the two rats will attack each other. And they'll attack each other because all they know is, I'm in pain. There's another rat. That rat must be causing my pain in some way. Now, let's take one of the rats and make them black, and the other rat and make them white. And we'll stand outside the cage and say, oh, look, white and black rats, they can't get along with each other. And we need to have programs to help them to stop attacking each other. The reason that we studied rats is because rat behavior isn't all that much different from human behavior. When there is an electric shock going through the floor of our human cages, we start attacking each other. We don't ask the question, what is it that's keeping us attacking each other? What is the nature of the pain that I'm feeling? What's actually going on? All we do is, oh, I'm feeling attacked. I'm feeling in pain. I feel like I'm being victimized. And there's another rat over there. I'm going to go after them. We've got to become smarter than rats. No evidence of that right now, but that's what we've got to do. We've got to see what is really causing our problems. We're being both pushed and pulled into making fundamental societal change. The thing that's pulling us is our vision, and I'll be talking about vision in a bit. But the thing that's pushing us is all the problems that we can see. As you know, the problem, the situation of an iceberg is that most of the iceberg is below the waterline. You don't see most of most of an iceberg. So we can look at problems like, while we're focusing on global climate change, while we're focusing on racism, sexism, while we're focusing on COVID, while we're focusing on Trump and making him stronger and stronger by focusing on him, there are many people who don't seem to believe that the law of attraction actually works. They think they can keep talking about someone like Trump all day long and that has no effect. It definitely has an effect. You get him elected again. Let me say this one thing since I put that up there. Back when Trump was running the first time, and everyone was saying, "Oh, he's such a fool. He's such a charlatan. He's going to be the death of the Republican Party," etc. Only a couple of people, I was one of them, Michael Moore was another, and only a couple of people were saying, this guy can win. And that's because I wasn't listening to Trump. I was looking at all the people who were listening to him. And after his term, and after two impeachment attempts, people like, oh, he's history, all the lawsuits against him, etc. And I kept saying, you're still talking about him. As you're still talking about him, he can win again. And I'm going to say this a third time. If you don't shut up, if you don't take the discipline of ignoring him and focusing on the problem, he'll win a third time. Now, everybody says, oh, well, the Constitution doesn't allow you to run a third time. I said, keep talking about him and watch what happens. I don't. I focus on what the problem is. Now, what is the problem? While we're focusing up on the shallow stuff on top of the iceberg, we're ignoring the mess. Now, what is the mess? In my book, Creating a World That Works for All, I talk about 50 presenting symptoms of that are in our society. And these things are problems that are intractable. Holes in the ozone layer, homelessness, acid rain, pandemics, regional famines, weapons of mass destruction, civil wars, sexism, overuse of fertilizers, neocolonialism, homicide, unsustainability of all aspects of life. Now, that is out of page, I think it's 37 in the book. And the thing about this list that I want you to focus on is that this is not, these aren't 50 problems. These are not 50 problems. This is one problem that has 50 presenting symptoms. If you spend all your time focused on the symptoms, you never, ever, ever get to address the disease. And what I want us to do is to look at this and to see it as something that is a function of our consciousness. These aren't 50 problems. This is one problem with 50 presenting symptoms, and that problem is consciousness. The problem is our consciousness. Now, what I mean by that is how we think about the world and how we act in the world. The problem is consciousness, and if we're trying to change the symptoms, we don't address the disease. Weirdly and paradoxically, the solution is consciousness. Once we change our consciousness, how we give birth to a new system, a new structure, a new way of looking at the world will make sense. So the solution is consciousness, and that solution is having a vision, holding a vision of how you see the world, and seeing that world as creating a world that works for all living beings. Once you do that, you can start doing things in a different way, and you can start doing things from another living point of view. I have to keep reminding myself when I see things like this to use my indoor voice and not yell, scream, and throw things at the screen. What you're seeing is garbage sitting on the surface of Mars. This is trash blowing in the wind of Mars. It's there for only one reason. That trash is sitting on Mars because of our consciousness. When we start asking, why is there so much trash in our communities? Why so much trash in our society? Why is there so much trash in the ocean? It isn't about ocean dumping. It isn't about, the only thing it's about is consciousness. Some amazingly smart, intelligent people put things together in such a way that you wind up with garbage on Mars. They must not be all that smart. They should be able to design a system that allows you to investigate another planet without dumping your trash on it. So before we say the problem is these people over here or those people over there, the problem rests inside of me, and I have to own that problem. I have to own that trash that's sitting on Mars. In order to see this, we have to see our reality in three different ways. We have three different kinds of consciousness that come into alignment on our planet right now. Many of us think there's only one. What I talk about in Creating a World That Works for All is three types of consciousness, and that's the keepers, the breakers, and the menders. The keepers are the people that we refer to as indigenous people, native people, but they are the people who have the value of aligning themselves with, number one, the divine, however you refer to it, the Great Spirit, God, whatever. Number two, aligning with the earth. Number three, aligning with each other. And each other means other human beings and other larger than human beings. These are the people who put no load on the planet. These are the people that if they create trash, that trash is compostable. The trash will make the earth better. So they're not burdening the earth. They're not burdening each other. They live within the earth's limits and the earth's tolerances. Then there's this other group called the breakers, of which all of us are. If you can understand what I'm saying right now, if you can understand English, you're a breaker, okay? And as I tell folks, I've got a few degrees in breakerism. We're definitely on a different wavelength. We don't act like we live on the earth. We act like we are living above the earth. We act like we're living better than the earth. We treat the earth like our piggy bank and our cesspool. We pull resources out and we don't care what happens but with us pulling resources out. And we dump our garbage and we don't care what happens when we dump our garbage. And that attitude, that is the thing that's driving us to the brink of destruction. And for those who may object to me putting that cute baby in the picture, that baby consumes as much resources as an entire village in Africa. And that baby didn't ask for that. That baby doesn't want that. This is the way the system works. So, if that's what keepers look like, if that's what breakers look like, what do the menders look like? The people who are going to fix our problems, the people who are going to mend the damage to our earth, to our systems and structures, and the damage in our own hearts. Well, what they look like is just like everybody else. You can't look at a person and tell whether they are a breaker or a mender. I would like to be a mender. I work diligently and I work every single day to remove the breaker consciousness from myself and to open to a whole new way of looking at the world. And I invite each one of us to do that. So it's not about skin color, it's not about gender, it's not about religion, it's not about politics. If you spend all your time looking at one of those issues and thinking that you're focused on it, you're focused away from the problem. It's about consciousness, and that's what we need to be focusing on. Albert Einstein said, and you know this quote already. I'm not saying, I'll bet there's not a one of you on this call that doesn't know this quote. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And you're all going to nod, oh yes, I know that, I know that. And you keep trying to solve our problems from the same level of consciousness that created it. When do we stop? When do we get the discipline of stopping? It's not a matter of somebody else can stop. Yeah, Sharif's doing all this work about changing consciousness. We need to change their consciousness. Yeah. Nope, I'm talking to each one of us. We are the ones that we are going to wake up to another level, or we're not. And if we don't, and I mean don't do this very, very quickly, then that simply means that you'll continue to be part of the problem. And as the earth is moving us away from that problem, we get moved away with it. If that's your path, then so be it. I'm sorry to hear that, and I wish that you had a different path, but that's what we're looking at. Thank you. So we're out of balance. Humanity faces destruction, and we're facing destruction from our story. In chapter 5, in Creating a World That Works for All, I talk about the nature of story. What do I mean by story? Your story is the part of your culture that you enact. Your story is the part of your culture that you are living. Your culture says either you eat with a fork, or you eat with chopsticks, or you eat with your fingers. But why you do that, the why part of it, is your story. We have a story, our story of rugged individualism, our story of the survival of the fittest, our stories around the superiority of certain groups of people over others. And those stories have driven us to the brink of extinction for our planet and for ourselves. We need to change them. It's as simple as that. And we keep saying that, but we don't know what to change them to. Well, now you do, because we've got a process that will get us to that point. Let me take a quick look and see where we are. Where we are is we are about to give birth. For those of you who have given birth, for those of you who have seen the process of giving birth, you know some things about it. When I talk about us giving birth to a new society, I'm talking about a process that's amazingly messy, yucky, painful, amazingly painful, unpleasant, unstoppable. I mean, when you start that process of labor, you see it through, okay? And then at the end, you get a baby and you forget about all that other stuff. So right now, all of the pain that we're seeing around the world, our planetary process is we are either dying, and there's a lot of people out there talking about that we are in the death of humanity. We're either dying or we're having a baby. Now, there's a couple of stories, and ding dong it, I don't have. Imagine me holding up my latest book, Birthing the Nation of Gaia. There's a couple of stories in there about birthing that I'm going to tell you now. A couple of years ago, a woman in Uganda was having a baby, and she did all the stuff that you're supposed to do when you're having a baby. She and her husband, went to the hospital and had all the testing, and she was eating all the right food and doing all the right stuff. And when her labor started, she does all the yelling, screaming, crying, and out pops the baby, and they wrap it in a blanket, and she and her husband go home, and they're happy for about a week. She comes back into the hospital a week later, and she is in serious pain. And when when she enters the hospital, the first thing they ask her is, "Are you pregnant?" And she says, "No, I'm not pregnant. I just had a baby last week." So they start doing with her everything you should not do to a pregnant woman. And right as they're about to slice her open, out pops another baby. She's one of the rare women who had two wombs. Her husband got her pregnant in both of them about a week apart. And she wound up having given birth twice within 6 days, and these were not twins. These are completely separate births, separate wombs. There's another woman who had two wombs and didn't know about it. She was not married, but she was having sex with her boyfriend, and so she was keeping very good records of her menstrual cycle. She starts experiencing a lot of pain and goes into the hospital screaming and yelling. And the first thing they ask her is, "Are you pregnant?" She says, "No, I'm not. I keep meticulous records of my menstrual cycle. I just had a period last week." So they then start doing everything to her that you should not do to a pregnant woman. Muscle relaxants, nerve blocks, lots and lots of chemicals in her system. Everything that they put in her threw her into a coma. And while she's in the coma, out pops a baby. And she's in the coma for a week. And when she comes out of the coma, they say, "Well, number one, welcome back. And number two, here's your baby." And she says, "How long was I in a coma?" And according to the news article about this, said that she had a bit of difficulty bonding with this child that she had no idea that she was carrying. So, so our challenge is very simple. Are we dying or are we pregnant? Is humanity dying on this planet, Or are we about to give birth to a whole new way of seeing humanity on the planet? I'm betting on the latter. I'm betting that we are coming up with a whole new way that our consciousness works on this planet and works in conjunction with all other consciousnesses. And that junction will solve every single problem we've got and some that we don't even understand. So the question is, what's our focus? What is it that we are focusing on? Cute little baby. Are we focused on we are having a baby? Or are we focused on all this other stuff that comes out while you're having the baby? Are we focused on all of the afterbirth? And I'm telling you, if we're focused on our on the wars, if we're focused on the inequality of income and all the things that are part of that mess, then all we're going to do is make the mess worse. If we refuse to discipline ourselves, I've got a quote, and this is reaching over to this whole stack of books I've got over here, so I can find this quote for you real quick. The problem that I have is I've got this is my working copy of Creating a World That Works for All, and I've got almost every other page marked to the point that I can't find anything. Okay, so Ruth, I see your digital hand is raised here.
Right. So first of all, thank you so much for being with us, for honoring us.
Well,
And
the honor is mine.
here's what I'm wondering about the statement you made about that all those issues are actually part of one thing rather than being 100 different things. I remember someone saying that like the fingers of the hand, you mentioned all these different ecology and this and side, and they're all connected to the wrist. So I understand that process, but I think it's very hard for us to think of the wholeness of a problem without getting specific about the individual thing. I agree with what you're saying, but I think the challenge is, for me, is to be able to embrace the entirety of it. And I know it's about consciousness, but we have to be trained to. A teacher of mine once said, the only time we're truly conscious is when we notice that we're unconscious. So I assume that you're going to give us perhaps some exercises or some way to some picture to have in our minds so that we can start thinking about this holistically rather than as an individual problems that we're just facing.
Yes, and that's a good question, I'm not sure this is a great answer, but it's the answer I got right now.
Okay. I'll take it.
I was doing a talk, and some parts of I talk to everybody, okay, and I've been to 45 different countries, and I've been to probably 120 to 130 distinct cultures. So many cultures within a particular society. I was talking to talking with a guy who was saying, I am a farmer, I'm a grower, and I don't think that growers get enough respect in our society. And we're not, we're feeding America, and people are, dismissive of what we're doing, etc. And that's not right. And I said, this is a complex situation in that, on the one hand, if you eat food, you should be thanking somebody who grew that food for you. Okay, unless you grow all your own food, and most people, even if they're growers, don't do that. I said, on the one hand. On the other hand, while I'm thankful for you growing this food, I am not thankful for the chemicals you throw in there. On the one hand, when you're growing this food, you're doing that from understanding that you are touching the divine when you put that seed in the ground. You're touching the divine when you sprinkle water on that seed. You're touching the divine when your intention is to grow that food for someone like me to eat. And when I'm conscious, I'm going to be able to say thank you to the seed, thank you to the water, and thank you to the grower. On the other hand, if you are putting chemicals on that food in order for you to make more money, then you're not doing that for me. You're not doing that for the seed. You're not doing that for the water. You're doing this for some abstract concept called money. And that's the opposite of where you should be. And so the question is, how do we get to this place? How do we get to the place where we can be joyfully a part of the solution? How do we get to the place where we can be, we can see that our work is really visionary? As my publisher, when Barrett Kohler published Creating a World That Works for All, even the book was so instrumental for them, they changed the motto of their organization. So if you go to their website, it says Barrett Kohler Publishers, Creating a World That Works for All. And I'm like, cool. But if you ask them, how do you create a world that works for all? They said, well, our part of that is to publish books that help open up people's minds. Somebody else will say, well, I do artwork that is designed to bring people together. Or I bake cakes, and my cakes are designed to help people see their relationship to so-and-so. So there's all sorts of ways that we can address the issue of how do we create a world that works for all living beings. But if 99% of my time is occupied with, I'm just trying to make more money for myself, or I'm trying to make more money for somebody else, or I'm trying to build this bomb that's going to kill these people over here, then no, we're not doing that. And that's how this is, by using this model of having the vision, we can become clear and clearer about what it is we do and how we do it. Okay. I hope that is enough answer for you, because I can go on and on, but no, I can't go on and on because I don't have on and on time left.
I
But I
guess
hope
the
that,
last thing to say is what is a reminder? You know how some people put a rubber band on their wrist, and every time they want to smoke a cigarette or take a drink or eat a ice cream quart, in one sitting, they use the rubber band to remind themselves. But how can we get to that place, the macro place that allows us to understand that everything is connected to everything else, and that this next action I'm going to take has profound consequence and ripple effect,
yeah. Well, the thing that I will suggest, and I will suggest this at the end of our time here today, um, is to do that catalyst meditation. Every day I deepen in that. Every day when you start seeing, okay, so I'm walking down the street and I'm seeing this gathering of crows. And I've noticed that there's more and more of them gathering. I'm reminded that I'm welcoming into my consciousness the consciousness of the crows. And through that, I get to see the world a little bit differently. And then I'm welcoming the consciousness of the squirrels. And I'm welcoming the consciousness of people who I actually oppose, who hold oppositional energy to me. Ruth, I'm going to say some more about that in a minute, but I see that Kurt has a digital hand up, and I want to acknowledge that.
Thank you very much. And I just believe this is an outstanding sharing of our cosmic experience. As an educator, I think all educators like you are bringing forth the gifts and vision of each student. And this is allows that inclusivity. It's like Mother Nature. And I wanted to ask you a question about your meditation. Is wonderful in its, again, inclusivity. I have a real simple meditation that is practiced, and it's basically that I thank you for peace in everything, and everything as peace. Breathing in, thank you for peace in everything, and breathing out, everything as peace. And that brings in that effect that you mentioned about even that stuff that we think is oppositional. Because as peace, it allows us to see it in a different way. And we can stay peaceful and be that peace that we wish to be. Thank you.
Well, number one, thank you. I wrote that down. Number two, and this is something that I say on my website, that which supports you helps to guide you on your way, and that which is opposing to you helps you to define your way.
Mhm.
So a person and persons like Donald Trump are doing you a favor. And the favor is to help you see what's important. So I was in Sri Lanka some years ago. I did a lot of work in Sri Lanka. A lot of my life examples come from Sri Lanka. So I was in Sri Lanka, and we were doing our biggest peace meditation. We meaning Sarvodaya, and that's the organization I was working with at the time as a advisor. So we had 500,000 people all dressed in white and all dressed, all there to meditate for peace. We were up in Anuradhapura. I was interviewing people, just asking people why did they come to the peace meditation. And I don't speak either of the languages on the island, and I'm being trailed by my translators. So I stopped a woman who was coming out of one of the temples, and we asked her a question, why did you come to the peace meditation? And she misunderstood my question. So she gave a better answer than if she had understood it. Uh, so she thought I was asking, why were you in the temple? And she said, I went in the temple to give thanks to all of the people who helped me to come to the meditation today. And she said, I lit a candle for my son who gave me the 70 rupees, which is like 70 cents at the time, for the bus ticket. And I gave thanks to my daughter-in-law who fixed my lunch for me, fixed a meal packet for me. And she said, I lit a candle for my husband who told me not to come, told me I couldn't come. He said he said that there's going to be trouble there's going to be violence. I was going to get lost. Who's going to fix his dinner, etc. And she said, as he was saying all this, she said, I realized how important it was for me to go. And that's what oppositional energy is there for. It's to motivate you to positive action. She could have done, my husband is such a jerk, he tried to stop me from coming, he did this, he did that. But instead, she lit a candle for him. Thank you for lighting the path. Okay. And we got lots of path lighters in this society, but we keep focusing on what you don't want them to do, and you don't focus on how is this making my path clearer. And that's our challenge. That's our focus. And Kurt, I think you were waving your meat hand around. Yes.
Yeah, I did. And you brought up the point that I constantly am seeking to express to people is, like you had mentioned about Trump earlier, if we focus on Trump, we're giving him the energy to be able to be successful. And
successful at something you don't want to happen.
Correct. Yes. That's the craziness. And like I put in the chat about Aikido, we use that force to juice us up to be able to
Yep.
express what it is that's for the benefit of all our relations. And when you talked about the cosmic consciousness and this consciousness and that consciousness, there's no separation. And that's the beauty of it all.
Okay, so number one, you're right, and you're right because you're agreeing with me. Number two, we're going a little bit deeper down this rabbit hole, okay? Because we are in a very interesting time right now. So I'm going to ask you all to remute yourselves and to turn off your video, and we're about to dive into this process. I'm jumping around on the screen. I'm trying to do the spotlight thing here. So this is Birthing the Nation of Gaia, and this is my latest book. And this is where we have the the Common Way 1,000-year vision. Now, right now, we are living in a vision. This is from the Bible. Where there is no vision, the people perish. Proverbs 29:18. Right now, especially in this society, we lack a collective vision, but it's not too late for us to get one. In Birthing the Nation of Gaia, in the appendix, I put a 1,000-year vision for humanity. Now, this is my idea of how we ought to spend the next 1,000 years. It's not exclusive. You can come up with your own, and you can agree with mine, and we can fine-tune these visions together. Since the time I wrote that, things have changed dramatically, and some of those things have changed dramatically for the good. And we need to start focusing on the good as good. But this is a vision of mine. We can create a world that works for all beings. We can act, not just talk, but act like we love ourselves, like we love each other, and we love all other beings. Now, if you don't like my vision, you should hang up now. No, that was a joke. If you don't want my vision, here's another one for you. This is the architect William McDonough, who said we can love all the children of all species for all time. If that was the driving force for our society right now, we'd be living in a completely different world. If we can love all the children of all species for all time. If you don't like either one of those, my friend Mark Anielski, we can create an economy of enduring happiness, an economy that's based on love, as opposed to an economy based on money. So we have all sorts of ways that we can rethink, we can recontextualize, we can reconstrue our the purpose for humanity on this planet. Our job is not to make more money. Our job is not to make more weapons. Our job is to act like we love each other, love ourselves, and love other beings. So for the first time in history, we have a technological vision. We've got one person saying, let's go to Mars. Okay, well, that's an idea. I have some other ideas first, like let's make sure that every human being has food to eat and a roof over their heads. Let's see whether or not we have a collective energy to get to Mars, as opposed to one guy who read a book and said, let's go to Mars. In the past, we could think about bettering our lives with a modicum of technology, a better plow, a better watch, a better way of getting across town. But now we're being driven by our technology, not driving it, and that has to change. So the metamorphosis of humanity that I've been talking about for the past 20, 30 years or so has begun. And it's begun in some very, very interesting ways. In this book, there's another appendix, and that appendix is about the 5 latent powers. When I was I wound up going around the world in this thing that I call the search for sacred civilization. And started in Egypt, went to Göbekli Tepe, landed for a month in the Himalayas, landed for another month in Bali, and learned a lot in each spot. When I went to the Himalayas, I went there with a very specific notion. And the specific notion is human beings had abilities early on. And those abilities are we built the pyramids. If you have ever seen the pyramids, you know what I'm talking about. If you have never seen the pyramid, put that high on your list of the next thing to do. Nothing, no words can describe, can get you ready to see the pyramid. There's no picture that you've seen that can prepare you for the pyramids. And there's this notion that breakers have of the blocks were moved by a whole bunch of slaves pulling on ropes and moving each block in place by hand, etc. And as soon as you see the pyramids, that was not, there is no number of people that can move blocks by hand like that. The same thing is true with Göbekli Tepe. So I wanted to know, how did we do that? And I thought what I was looking for was an object, either, the sacred ink pen or the sacred scrolls or something that had the formula for how you move blocks around or how you do telepathy. And so I wound up in a cave fasting at about the 15,000 foot level. And if you've ever been in a cave at the 15,000 foot level, you know there's not a whole lot of oxygen in there. And I got an answer, I got a download, a major download. And the answer was kind of strange. The answer was, there is no magic pen or magic scroll that can do that. That the ability to move blocks that weigh many tons with our minds, the ability for us to be telepathic with each other, is latent inside of each and every one of us. It's already there. The wiring is already in place. The thing that is not in place is this one element, that you cannot access that wiring by yourself. You can only access it in communion with other human beings and other living beings. So the powers will stay latent until we stop what the Dalai Lama calls the preoccupation with yourself. And we start looking at all humans and all other beings together. And this is my principal journey. This is the thing that the divine has given me a responsibility for, to awaken these 5 latent powers. So what are the 5 latent powers? Well, the 5 latent powers look like this, but I'm not letting you look at that. And the reason is, if you get things too easily, then if you don't struggle for this, if you don't struggle to get this baby out, then you don't get the baby out. And so I do an entire about an hour and a half process, and it's around here somewhere. Hang on. So I did
This is the
whoops.
teleseminar for.
And I turned it on instead of giving it to you. Um, mm, 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 mm. So here's a link for the 5 latent powers teleseminar. And now you've got it in your chat box, and you can go through the hour and a half of the seminar on your own. You don't need me to spoon feed it to you. You don't need me to tell you it's this in 5 minutes and you think you've got it. Okay? Go through the hour and a half and let this happen. So I want to share one other thing with you. And that is something that if you're not familiar with it, I want you to get familiar with it as soon as possible. And this is something that's called the telepathy tapes. If you are familiar with it, that you understand how important this is. And if you're not familiar with it, I'm going to get you familiar with it in a second. So, the telepathy tapes, and there's a link coming up here. This is something that it's on YouTube, and it's about to go into your box here. So here's the link for the telepathy tapes. I'm going to do this really quickly, but it's really worth every minute that you spend going through these. It's a series of 10 episodes. And this person has researched that autistic children are highly, highly telepathic, highly at a level that there doesn't seem to be a telepathy test that can test their abilities, because we don't know how to do that. You can give them a string of numbers at any level, and they can repeat the string back to you. They can repeat not just numbers, not just letters, but also pictures. They can describe pictures. Now, when I say describe, this is the autistic children who don't have a verbal language. They cannot speak. But they figured out a way to get them to point to letters. And through pointing the letters and through the kind of software that, what's his name? Stephen Hawking used to speak, that they can speak with that software. And what they have to say is absolutely mind-blowing. So not only are they completely telepathic with their primary caregiver, not just seeing through their eyes, but also able to absorb, goodness, just about anything and everything. When you get into, like I said, I've gone through all 10 episodes of the telepathy tapes. When you get around episodes 5, 6, 7, 8, it starts getting really freaky. Just one freaky example, that these autistic individuals go to a place that they call the Hill. And this is a communal spot where all autistic people with their, where all the non-speakers go. And they can communicate with each other, and they can do mass communication. Meaning, most telepathy is set up, one person is a sender, the other person is a receiver, and it's a one-to-one connection. When they go on the Hill, it's multiple to multiple connection. They interviewed this one kid, and the interviewer asked him, how many people are with you on the Hill right now? He says 1,789. Now, can you imagine being in communication with over 1,000 people, close to 2,000 people, and you are in sync in that communication? You can all hear each other and you can all speak to each other at the same time. When I first started, when I was first at in the Himalayas and got this download about the 5 latent powers. This is 2012. So now I'm seeing this coming about. I'm seeing it actually happening in real time in these telepathy tapes. And I'm seeing even more of that happening, okay? I'm seeing it happening at a deeper level than even I could imagine. This is really, really, really cool stuff. Where it goes, when you start looking, okay, so the issue of telepathy and collective knowing is one of the 5 latent powers. The other 4, which includes spatial, like lifting blocks up and sending them around the earth, etc. It's like, yeah, I'll bet they can do that too. I'll bet they haven't done it because they haven't tried to do it. No one asked them to do it. So our consciousness is what we think of as consciousness is shifting right in front of our eyes. It's shifting right in the direction that I've predicted. I've got other predictions in these books, and that's coming about also. And so let me share this with you. So we need to rethink what consciousness means. The breaker view of consciousness is that it's only in your brain. It's only in the brain of human beings. My consciousness, my way of formulating, making sense of the world is different from your consciousness. In fact, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, lots of folks said that people of African descent didn't have a consciousness, that women didn't have a consciousness. Why bother sending us to school? Because there's nothing there. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of people who actually believe that right now, right here and right now. So in terms of rethinking consciousness, consciousness is not an accident of brain activity. In fact, consciousness doesn't have anything to do with brain activity. Your brain is like a radio, but consciousness is your is the station that you're tuned to. So if you're listening to music on your radio, it's the music is not in the radio. We know that part, but we don't seem to get it through the consciousness part. Consciousness is not located in the brain. The brain heart as a unit, as one unit, is the receiving organ or the receiving agent for consciousness. Consciousness is not limited to human beings. Okay, so let's talk about what consciousness means and start to try to bring this back around to the issue of fire. This is one of the most beautiful sights on earth, and I don't mean the woman with the long white dress on, although she not bad, but this is Mount Agnon, and not my language. And this is in Bali, and for those of you who have been to Bali, you've probably seen this. The last time I saw this mountain, I've been to Bali a few times, one of my favorite places on earth. But the last time I saw this, it looked like this. It was in the middle of an eruption. And all the geologists were saying, this is going to be bad. This is going to be, the mountain had erupted before, I think in 1970 or something like that, and thousands of people died. And they're saying this eruption is going to be as bad as that. And I landed, the mountain starts to erupt. All the Westerners are trying to get out of Dodge. I mean, everybody's trying to get a flight out of Bali. And they're all freaked out, you know. The mountains, the volcanoes are erupting, the volcanoes are erupting. The Balinese were not freaking out. They were putting signs up everywhere. And the signs were saying, gentle Agun, peaceful Agun, powerful Agun. They were stating their relationship to the mountain, and that relationship was saying, you're the boss. There's no question but that we need to be respectfully imploring our mother to be gentle with us. They were not saying don't erupt. They weren't saying we have to block this eruption. They weren't saying eruptions are bad things. Eruptions are naturally occurring events. The disaster is trying to walk through the volcano. So you have these two groups, and they have two different reactions. So while I was there, in the newspaper, they said, so the army cordoned off the entire mountain. Lots of people were living on the mountain, and they took those people to safety, although many people stayed. Their entire livelihood was tied to what they were growing and herding on the mountain, so they were tied there. So the army was not allowing anybody to get onto the mountain while I was there, and I heard that they allowed 6 priests to go up on the mountain and spend the night, and they were going to talk to the mountain, talk to the volcano, and the Westerners, these backwards people think they can talk to a volcano and talk it into not erupting. Isn't that funny? Isn't that quaint? So the six holy folks came down, and they said, we talked to the mountain last night, and the mountain said that because we asked it to, the mountain said it wasn't going to erupt. And it's billowing smoke everywhere. I mean, they have this phenomena called cold lava, which is really something. Balls of lava the size of a 2 or 3 story house rolling down these streams. And when it gets to the bottom and hits something, it bursts into fiery lava. And so, yeah, this was pretty interesting. I saw some of that, and and so the Westerners are, laughing at these holy men, and the holy men said, we talked to the mountain, and the mountain agreed that it would not erupt. That the next eruption would happen in 2046. And that one will be twice as hard as this one was supposed to be. And but 2046 gives you plenty of time to move people off, to deal with what you got to deal with. And there's no appeal to that eruption. Okay, I'm giving y'all a bye right now. I'm giving you a pass, but don't come back here asking for another one. And the mountain stopped erupting. It just stopped. And all the geologists and all the Westerners were saying nothing. Oh, that's a coincidence. It's a coincidence because if we don't know how to make that happen, then it's not possible to happen. And that is the arrogance of breakers. Breakers are supremely arrogant, that nothing can happen unless we are the ones that determine that it happens. I will just briefly touch on these solutions that we are seeing and give you a methodology of getting back to getting to the point of us doing something together to implement these decisions, these solutions, and then we'll open the floor to more Q&A. Okay, so I want to talk to you about some solutions. What we need is a whole new level of consciousness, and I am not talking about exercising my individual consciousness. This new level of consciousness is going to be what I call in Birthing the Nation of Gaia, holonic consciousness, the consciousness of the whole. All of us have had the experience of holonic consciousness, but we haven't had the ability to stand back from it and see it. All of us have had the experience of being called to a level of consciousness that is beyond your what Peter Russell calls the skin encapsulated ego. You've been there in times of intense emotional expression, intense joy, intense sorrow. When you watch what human beings do in an earthquake, even before the ground stops shaking, we are working to rescue other beings. We will put our own lives on the line to save others and not think twice about it. No fear comes up. Our hearts, when we're in the middle of doing that, our hearts feel pure. It's not like we're we're trying to be seen a particular way or act a particular way. It just happens. I have so much more I can say about that, but I'm not. So how do we work with the living spirit of fire? Well, the first thing we do is acknowledge that there is a living spirit of fire. That the fire was here way before we were. We're the ones that put our wooden houses in the way of that fire and expected something to happen that obviously did not happen and can't happen. When we go back to putting our houses in place, are we going to put our houses right back on that same fault line? Or are we going to make the houses out of wood again? Or we're going to make the houses out of rammed earth this time that doesn't burn? We have choices. We can act as though we live on top of the earth, or we can create a path for the fire. We know the fire is going to be there. The fire has to be there. It's an integral part of our planet. What we can do is build our structures and build our societies in such a way that make them fire resistant, that make them fire channeled. The fire goes down this channel, but doesn't have to go this way. And we can find out which way the fire goes by just asking it, by being like the holy men and holy women and say, I'd like to have a conversation with you. And by doing that, we can start seeing some things differently. You can join our Catalyst meditation. I'm going to be opening that up. And if you are interested in that happening, being part of that, send me, I didn't give you my info here. Let me give you my info. Send me a text message and say, I'm interested in the Catalyst meditation, and we'll get you involved. I'm still working on the logistics of that, so bear with me. And I am going to put all my contact information in the chat box right now. That is, okay, so that's my email address. Let's move it over here. Email address, website for Commonway, some of my books, and at the end is my TED Talk. I would suggest you watch the TED Talk. And we're initiating a project that doesn't have a good name. I'm calling it P3, which stands for the Parallel Polis Project. How do we build a parallel society? Václav Havel, the former president of the Czech Republic, the person who provided the introduction to my book, Creating a World That Works for All, and someone who I was corresponding with well before he became the president of the Czech Republic. And he said the way that we should he defeated single-handedly the Soviet Union without firing a single shot. So how do you do that? Well, this Parallel Polis project is for us to start designing a new society based on our values and doing it literally from the ground up. All the pieces are around us. We are being taught to see those pieces as a problem. The pieces are not a problem. The pieces are the solution. We just haven't woven the solution into the solution it can be and it should be. So another solution is for you to make a donation, and we can then, I mean, we're literally talking about doing project work with, you know, 30, 50, 100, 200, $500. We recently had a significant, a more significant donation of several $1,000s, which feels really good. But if we're going to build a whole new society, we're going to need tens of millions of dollars. And that comes from each one of us doing our part. Each one of us creating a colony economics, an economics based on an ant colony. And I'm putting the donation button. Remember I said I was going to do this twice? That's the second time. That's the end of me talking about donations. In an ant colony, all ants work, even though all ants don't work equally. In an ant colony, no one says to another ant, you're eating too much. You're eating more than your share of the lichen we're growing in here. You eat as much as you need to eat. And someone may need to eat more food than I do. Someone may need to eat less food than I do. The bottom line doesn't matter the more or less when there's enough for all. And there is enough in the world for all. There's not enough when any one of us wants to hoard millions and billions of units of value in themselves that they could never in 10,000 years spend on themselves. I'm sorry, one more thing to do I didn't put up earlier. This is the link for the Commonwealth bookstore. And you can see all the book products there. You can see, and I'm holding them up as I'm talking about them, which is commonway.org/shopping. So that's in which column now. So you'll see creating a world that works for all in there. You'll see birthing the nation of Gaia there. And something else I'd like to talk about for a second, which is the Chronicles of the Upheavals. This is interesting. I actually read this one a couple on several occasions. It's my one and only foray into speculative fiction. Okay, I'm sorry, that book and its sequel, oops, that's Upheavals too. There's another copy around here. Oh, it's buried down too low. Act like I'm holding it up. The Chronicles of the Awakening. The books are set 100 years in the future. And 100 years in the future, we make it. Humanity makes it through all the junk that is about to hit us. Humanity makes it through the free-floating crap that's engulfing our planet right now. And so, 100 years from now, the folks that are running the world, which is absolutely no national governments that we know of in any way, shape, or form, those folks say we should preserve how we got here. So they commissioned a history. And they started 100 years in their past, which is 2025. Oh, gee, I've caught up to the when I wrote that, that was 10 years in the future. Okay, now we're right there. And you follow some young people who are getting brought into this thing that they call an awakening center. And they're being brought in by from bad circumstances. I mean, they're living on the streets, and living on the streets at that time, well, actually, living on the streets at any time is difficult. And they learn how to live in a new structured society by living there. And by their daily lives, they're getting an interesting experience in how to live. I like it. Those saying that you have to like it, but yeah, I like it, and I would advise. I suggest you look at it. One of the issues is this isn't the future anymore. This is right now. This is how we see ourselves and how we see ourselves. We're no longer looking for a vision of the future. We're looking at a vision of our today. And once we develop, oh, and I found the quote, I'm going to end with the quote that I was looking for. This is from a Brazilian theologian by the name of Rubem Alves. Let us learn from those who plant dates. A date tree takes 80 years. That's 80 years. A date tree takes 80 years from the time it's planted to bear its first fruit. To plant a date tree is an act of faith, a sign of hope, and a symbol of one's loving commitment to the future. Let us plant dates, even though we who plant them will never eat them. We must live by the love of what we will never see. This is the secret discipline. It is the refusal to let our creative act be dissolved away in immediate sense experience, and is a stubborn commitment to the future of our grandchildren. Such disciplined love, I'm going to repeat that part, such disciplined love is what has given prophets, revolutionaries, and saints the courage to die for the future they envisioned. They make their own bodies the seed of their highest hopes. And that's what we have to do. We need the discipline of our love, but we need the love of our discipline. We need to be able to say, this is the right path. We need to be able to look away from everything that will distract us, divide us, and confuse us on that path. On the path, regardless of the way you are expressing yourself on that path. On the path, I wish us all well. Thank you for listening to me. One of the things you should do when you go onto the Common Way website, if you go to the bottom of any page, you'll see a subscription form, and if you sign into that, you'll get into our flow of newsletters and flyers and everything else. Thank you. Blessings.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
You were fabulous. Thank you, Shariff.